Hello, this is episode 7.2. So I'm going to talk about my age 7, continue talking about age 7, part 2. I did tell you that age 7 was a very important age in my life. A lot of new people, very important people in my life, entered my life at that age. So there were I talked about at age I think 7.1. I talked about this carpenter that we had called Mara, right? So, and I talked about all the furniture that he built for us. So the one thing that he also built for us is there was an open showcase. It was open shelving with in our home built-in shelving. It was all wooden shelves, and beneath it there was there were two more shelves, but those were made of like cemented, and it was all built in. So what Mara did is we took out that shelving, and my dad actually designed something very nice. It was very contemporary. The shelving that we had was very even, like it was like four columns and three rows. But they took that out and they designed something very contemporary. My dad designed where it's all like uneven, and it was still shelving, but it was various lengths and breadths, and it was very cool actually. So Mara built a glass. Two glass doors for it which could open and close. So that was our showcase, right? My mom always used to collect a lot of dolls and things like that. So one of the main events that happened when I was 7 is I watched a movie called Dharamveer. It starred really old actors, like many of them are still alive actually. Dharmendra, Jitendra, Neetu Singh is who I remember, but there were other actresses also, Bindya Goswami, I think. But it was a multi-starrer. And it was like a period drama with kings and knights and something. It was a big, big, massive hit in India. But what fascinated me a lot in there was one of the main protagonists had a pet falcon. I thought it was an eagle, but later on I realized it was a falcon, which would transport messages. So played a major role in the movie. And this was way many years before Harry Potter. So they showed that pet falcon, and I always thought, like, wow, how fascinating it would be to have a pet falcon. So during that year, my dad went to on a business trip. He was working for AGI, so it was like kind of like a sales marketing type business trip. He was sent to the UAE as well as Egypt. So he went to Dubai, Egypt, and also Saudi Arabia. So this trip actually was so significant in our lives because Egypt, my mom always had a fascination for Egypt because she had all these history books, and there was a Elizabeth Taylor film called Cleopatra. She had also gone to see that movie. She really liked that movie. I didn't go to that movie, and it was not such a big hit or such a famous movie either. But they watched it, they really liked it. There was another book written by Robin Cook, which eventually got converted to a movie. made into a movie. It was called The Sphinx. This was way before Robin Cook, I think, started writing all these medical thrillers. I think it was Robin Cook. I might have been mistaken, but that's what I remember. So, my whole family, like, I didn't go to it, but my youngest aunt and my mother, and they went to this movie, and they were my uncles also went, and they were so fascinated by this movie. It was not even such a well made movie, but they were really fascinated. It ran, I still remember there was this like lady in the front, and there's like this thing. So they were very fascinated by Egypt. And my dad had Egypt in one of his plans. And this is something so, so, so special to me. Whichever country my father went to, and people might have forgotten, they used to do this back in the day. You would purchase a postcard and you'd actually mail it to them. So he used to write to me regularly. Like he used to write to me every day. And he would write when he was in Egypt. He took pictures in front of the pyramids, like for my mother, and he saw the Sphinx. And I remembered when after he came back, my mother was like telling him she wanted to like live vicariously through him, right? Vicariously through him, and she was like. She was so eager. She was so eager for him to tell him every single detail. So she would say, describe every little detail. And my father was not a very descriptive talker, but he was a very good writer, excellent writer. He's one of the best writers I have known. So he described to her like how back then they would actually let you enter the Great Pyramid. They would let you go through the passageway. Maybe they still do. I don't know. I've never been to Egypt. And he told my mother all the details about where he went. He took the pictures for her. And for me, what he did is he would take a postcard at every location and he would describe in great detail what he would see. He was gone for about a good month and a half, 6 weeks, or maybe 2 months even, actually. He was gone for a good while. And I would eagerly wait for those postcards. And as soon as I received the postcard, I would read it and I would go and I would show it to my friends, all my friends. I was so proud that my dad was traveling the world. The one postcard that was my favorite was actually that of an Arab with a falcon in his hand. It was from Saudi Arabia when he was in Saudi Arabia. So he said, oh, here the Arabs wear this dress and they have pet falcons. Do you remember the movie Dharamveer? And they have pet falcons here like that. That was my favorite postcard. I kept it forever and ever. Then I think somebody threw it away. It was in an album because it was not the picture of any of us, right? But I think they didn't realize that behind it, it was my dad. My dad's letter was there. So that was lost. I never found it. And then I used to take those pictures after my dad came home. The other thing that my dad brought back with him is he brought me the most exquisite, so many dresses. And I remember almost every single dress that my dad brought back with him. My favorite was this one that was white with yellow dots, polka dots, and a gray and a brown zigzag pattern. Then there was another one that my dad used to call the Independence Day dress. That was my favorite too. That was white here, and it had Indian flag colors. It had green, slight checkered pattern, and orange peaches on it. So I used to wear it for every Independence Day. And then there was another white maxi with bluish gray satin checkered pattern here, thin satin ribbon. These were my three favorites, but he got me so many dresses from there, and I was so excited. But what was closest to me and my brother was he got us matching. Um, I don't know what these are called, the outfits that Sheikhs or Arabs use, the long gown with the headgear and with the circle thing that holds it down. And my brother used to actually wear it and go around the neighborhood like an actual dress. And then the other thing he got me was this little talking doll. Its name was Catherine, and it had blonde curls, and um, you could press it on the chest, and then it would say, um, I am pretty and you are pretty too, or no, it would actually say, you are pretty, am I pretty too? And the other thing, uh, it would say, show me your something, mama. It would say like that. And you could actually program it to say other things too. So my brother immediately would open its like back where the battery was, and he would try to make it do different things. And I was always so afraid that he would damage it, but nothing happened. I used to play with it for the longest time. So that doll Catherine, occupied a major place in the showcase. It was a very good thing. And then some years later, after my sister was born, somebody got her a baby, like my second aunt got her a baby doll of a baby, and then that occupied the other half of the showcase. So these were the prized are very, very prized possessions in our showcase. So there was a left large shelf that Catherine was there, and then there was a right shelf some years later where that baby was there, but that came like 2 years or 3 years later. And then uh, and then in the middle of the showcase, my dad had got uh, curios and all these mementos from Egypt. So there was one Egyptian soldier, and there was a little sphinx, and those were all there. And we still have those actually. We don't have the dolls anymore. I think eventually we threw them away, but we still have those mementos that he got from Egypt. We have them in our current showcase. So, and then the other thing in the showcase was there was this little Andhra bank, kiddie bank that my dad opened for me. And it had a little kiddie bank it was a little baby boy, and it had three dials that you could use to open it. And then it had a little like middle parting. In the middle parting, it had that little slit to put all the coins. So my dad said every month you put the coins and we'll go deposit it in the bank. And he opened a bank account for me. He got me my own passbook. So that kitty bank was there, and there was like a white Nandi, like Shiva's vehicle Nandi. It was actually not white. It was actually stone. Later on, my mom painted it white. But that was not in the showcase, but it was right outside the showcase. On a table, many times it sat in the corner unit, and later on, it went into the showcase too. Um, there was all the AGI glass vases that my dad had been gifted. Those were in the showcase. Whenever I traveled later on in seventh grade, I went to Bombay on a school trip excursion. I got a little Elephanta Caves face, and I got that for my mother. And I'll come to that story in my episode 7, but not episode 7, episode 12, I guess. So, but anyways, those were also in the showcase. So, the reason I'm describing the showcase so much is every item in that showcase like had a story behind it. It was not like back in the day, you collected these things over a period of things. You collected them, everything had a meaning. My brother had received some gold medals, and those were in the showcase. And everything had a meaning. My mother's book that she had written, it was right underneath in the bookcase. There are the two bookshelves. Mara made two bookshelves. The showcase on the top, and the bottom were two bookshelves. There were two sections. One was my brother's, and one was mine. So mine, I used to keep it very, very neatly. Um, and and so back then it was not like, oh, we'll decorate a home and you go to a store and buy 20 things. It was not like that. You only bought like one thing or two things or three things at a time, and you bought them when you went to a place, like as a memory of that place. Over a period of many, many years, wherever we go, my mother really was loves collecting things. And she collected all these things with so much love and so unique. Every piece is so unique. So that showcase was her pride. So the reason I'm talking so much about that showcase is to introduce you to the next part of my story, which was basically at the very top of the showcase. We also had two dolls, and those they had ever since I was a baby. So those were not collected at the time that I remember. They were already there. They were not in a showcase earlier. They were in that open shelving, but now with the showcase, and those were also two prized possessions. They were porcelain dolls. I was told that my oldest uncle had gifted them, but I might be wrong about this because, again, they were already there ever since I remembered. And I remember everybody, my brother once made a comment that those dolls are so beautiful, and that's his idea of beauty. They were Japanese dolls. And my mother also used to say that was her favorite item, maybe because her brother gave it to her, or I don't know who gave it. I think her brother gave it to her. And everybody used to say those dolls are so beautiful. So in my mind, because I was a child, I didn't have a definition of beauty formed yet as to what was beautiful. So for me, those dolls were the epitome of beauty because everybody said they were beautiful. So I was like, oh, that must be beauty, right? That is beauty. So there were two Japanese dolls, and they were identical, but one was yellow. It had a yellow, it was not yellow, but it had a yellow dress. And the other one was identical to it, but it had a pink dress. It was a gown, actually, like a big fluffy gown. And we still have those dolls. At some point, one of the dolls broke. I don't remember who broke it, but I think my brother broke it because and I think it was not because he was playing. I think he was doing something with it, but then he repaired it also. He and my mother repaired it. So they put the hand and everything back in. So, so the reason I'm saying that was my epitome of beauty. And around this time, my what I used to see is there was a picture, there was an album in my home of old pictures. Actually, this album was actually in my grandma, my mama's home, I think. I don't remember where this album was or with whom this album was. But in that, my oldest aunt, and I'm her namesake, her name is also Anuradha. I had never met her until then. I had met her once, but I'd never met her. I'd only see this picture. And this picture is like she's standing in the middle. She's wearing a red sari. I think it was a few days after her wedding, actually. And my two uncles, my second uncle and my youngest uncle, are standing on either side. My oldest uncle might have been in the picture, but I don't think he was. I think all the my aunts and uncles are standing in the picture, but I definitely remember my two uncles are standing on either side. And she's wearing this red sari. And to me, like, she was the epitome of beauty because she looked exactly like that Japanese doll, like all her features. She had this little eyes that, like, kind of turned up, like upwards here, and she had this little, like, button nose and like the cutest lips, and she had like dimples in her cheeks, like the dolls, like dimples, or it was like high cheekbones like this. And I'd never met her. Every time I saw that picture, I used to think, my God, she's so much like a doll. She's so beautiful. So I already had that vision in my mind that she was this most beautiful person that I always wanted to meet. Then I got that opportunity because she already had her son, my cousin, um, and then she had a second child, and again, I don't remember this. She either came to India right after the birth of that baby when she was 3 months old, or she might have actually given birth to the baby in India, her second child. I think she actually gave birth. I don't remember the detail, but there was a very, very small baby. But anyway, the baby was born. She was either brought from US or she was born here. But it was the first time we were called to their home. I think we went before, but this was the first time that I remember that we were called to their home to see the baby. My cousin, my cousin Priya, and her full name was Priyadarshini, which I found was so fascinating because it reminded me of Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi's name, our then Prime Minister, or once upon a time Prime Minister, was Indira Priyadarshini. So I was like, thought this name was so interesting. So we were invited to her home to see the baby, and everybody was like. I was very particular. We were all very particular. We were all told to wear our like best dress, and I didn't know back then anything about but like why they were saying that. But they were very particular. Everybody dressed up really well. My mom wore a very nice Georgette sari. My brother, who had already recovered from the accident, he had like a green and cream shirt. He wore that, and I wore like they said I wore that white maxi with that grayish blue satin thing, and my mother took a lot of love. Like she tried this hairstyle, that hairstyle. Normally she would tie it like this in one ponytail, but this was the first time I remember she said, no, let's try something new, and she put like two big ponytails on me like this. I remember that, and I had bangs. Uh, so we all dressed up, and we went to their home. Their home was two-storied. So I had never seen a two-storied bungalow until then. Lakshmi Auntie's bungalow was very, very large, but it was not two-storied. It was very huge. And that Anurag and Pappu's bungalow was also very huge and spread out, but it was not two-storied. So this was a two-storied bungalow, and my aunt's mother's sister or some relatives, I think it was a sister, they lived on the first floor. And then we had to go up the stairs into the second floor. And their stairs were like a kind of on the side. They were not at the front of the house. We had to go to the side and go up the stairs. And the stairs had a landing, and then you enter like the door. It was like a double door. First you enter like a one door, and then you enter another door. And then inside also the house was so beautiful and so different, like something that you see in movies. You go there and you go up the stairs, and then there was a bedroom. There was another staircase in there leading to the bedroom, like 10 steps, like a half staircase. And that's where the baby was in the cradle. She was such a pretty baby. And my aunt was sitting there. I think it was something to do with the baby's naming ceremony or something. So she was in the main living area, and that was the first time. Actually, it was the second time, but first time I don't remember very well that I saw my aunt. My older cousin, for some reason, his hair was grown long. They had not cut it yet. So it was like a girl's hair. It was the cutest. He used to wear like two braids like at the back. So I met my cousin Sagar also, and the baby Priya was just born. And when I saw my aunt, I was like, she was even more beautiful in person than in the picture. She was just glowing. And I had heard of this story. My grandma, my Bama used to tell me the story of Rani Padmini, and she would say, "Oh, Rani Padmini was so beautiful." And this is a well-known like myth or like folklore, whatever, that when she used to eat pan, they could actually see the pan, like the red stain going through her down her throat. So when my Bama used to tell me this story, I used to think, what kind of beauty is that? I used to say, was her neck made of glass? Was it transparent? How could people see that? Then she said, no, no, it was not transparent. It was very like, she didn't know the English word translucent. Then somebody introduced that word. My brother or somebody explained, oh, it's translucent. There's a word called translucent. So I heard the word translucent. Maybe my mother told me. I don't remember who, but I heard that word. So I always thought, oh, skin can be translucent too. And her skin was like that. It was like butter. So I was 7 years old and I was a very shy child. But I was so curious. I was staring at her skin from far off, and I wanted to kind of touch it to see if my nail will go in, because I thought it looked like butter to me. So I was staring at it, but I was a very very shy child. So, and I was very little bit of a gloomy child also, because I used to not know how to take attention. And my brother was very outgoing. So wherever we went, my brother would like, somebody would call him and say, Raju, what are these facts? And he would talk like an adult, and it was not a show off. He really knew a lot about a lot. So I was always like very kind of overwhelmed in other kids' presence. So this memory of mine is actually recorded in photos. So there is one photo where my aunt is talking to my mother and they're laughing and joking. My brother is right there. But I'm standing in the corner. I'm just like with a serious, gloomy face, pretty face with those two ponytails and that white dress. I'm just looking like this. I'm just looking at her, observing her. I'm so gloomy and so serious. And then somehow, like, and my brother was telling her something. Somebody said, oh, my mother called my brother and said, oh, relate to Ataya, what went on here. And my brother was talking. And somehow my aunt realized that I was all alone there in the corner. And then she just turned around and said, oh, come, Manu, come sit here. Sit next to me. And then she called me and she gave me all the attention and she made me sit between my mother and her. And then I was so happy. And then she had somebody gave her some gift because it was, I think, she was going to have a baby, or she just had the baby some flowers or some fruit bag like grape. Then she gave that to me and she said, would you like to have some this? Would you like to have that? Take it. And this part is also recorded where I'm looking into that bag. And then I'm so happy. I'm taking a grape and eating it there. Those 3 pictures are there. The other 2 pictures are lost, but this one picture where I'm standing in the corner, I have it with me. The other 2 pictures are in somebody else's album. But I felt so happy that she gave me that attention. So, and then I was sitting there and I felt really, really happy. Now I got little empowered. So I actually touched her like this and dipped. I thought my finger will go in, but actually it didn't. So then I kept touching her like that, and her cheeks were so plump, and I said, oh. And then after I came home, my mama said, why were you going on touching her like that? I didn't know how to say that. I thought they were butter and I wanted to see if my finger would go in. So that is something that I remember. And then my father, because my cousin was Sagar was like, my aunt was busy with her daughter, younger baby. So my father organized a big trip to zoological park where we all went in his car, and he did, like I told you, he used to get things done. So he took our bicycle, and then I rode the whole bike throughout the park. And my cousin Sagar, we have so many pictures of that with my dad, like laughing. I wore that white dress with the yellow polka dots and the brown thing. And I have pictures with my father in the zoological park, Nehru Zoological Park. And I have pictures with my cousin Sagar. He's riding a bike. It was one of the funnest trips, one of the best picnics. And my youngest aunt came, and my aunt's cousins also came. Actually, they had cousins Ram Babu, Jabili, like they're all my aunts and uncles too. They're my mom's cousins. They all came. And I was also introduced to my youngest aunt, found this fruit, and she said, "Oh, this fruit is like so rare and I love it." And it was called Seema Chintakaya. And when she picked it up from the ground, there were some ants on it, like big, big ants. So she wiped away the ants and she ate it and she let me eat it. So ants in Telugu is chima. So I kept thinking about my youngest aunt. Why is it called Seema Chintakaya? Maybe she cannot pronounce chi. I thought because the ants were there, the name was Chima Chintakaya, the one that ants like. It was so funny. And I know it's not funny when you hear, but it was funny to me for the longest time. Seema actually means coastal. So this is a plant that grows on the coast. So we ate those. So all those, I really remember all those memories. So I went way overboard. So next time I'll cover 8-7 part 3. So I told you 8-7 is very significant. So there are many parts to it. There'll probably 4 parts to it. So I'll get to that. Bye.